How's it going, folks? Stu here. You know that thing where, like, they say that if you have too much cheese close enough to bedtime, you just have, like, the most insane, trippy, vivid dreams? Does Ari Aster only eat cheese? Genuinely, is it just cheese on his plate? Because that man is dreaming something. And the only two reasons I can come up with are just, like, cheese, lots of it, or hard drugs. Choosing to believe it's not the latter, even though I am a vegan, so I should be against the first one. So, Beau is Afraid is finally out in UK cinemas. It is the latest film from director Ari Aster, who you definitely have you've heard of or seen one of his previous films. He did Midsommar, and before that he did Hereditary. Both fantastic films. I love those two films. I was very interested to see how him as a director, his sensibilities would translate into different genres, and to see what he might do with a bigger budget to run wild with his creative vision, and B, a bigger budget to run wild with his creative vision. And run wild he does. This film it's a lot. It's very full on. Beau is Afraid. You're going to, and probably have, heard all the buzzwords from people coming out of this one, like nuts, trippy, surreal, self-indulgent. That's another one that's been coming out. But I, for one, had a fantastic time with Beau is Afraid. This is absolutely one of the most unique films I've seen this year, and even though it's not my favourite of Aster's work, I just consistently found myself completely wrapped up in the surreal comedy of it all. The premise of this one is incredibly simple on its sort of foundational level. It's essentially just about a guy who is going to see his mum, and life is very scary to him, as you could probably guess from the title, Beau is Afraid. That fella is played by Joaquin Phoenix, fantastic actor, and this is absolutely one of those films which is centered and anchored by just a performer giving it their all, and I think that translates into everything else in the film. Joaquin Phoenix is an actor and performer that has constantly proven his ability to just throw himself into a character, whatever it takes. And that means that he's had a very versatile career as an actor, going to very different places. And still, this does feel like a different and new character for him. And he's absolutely fantastic. There's this kind of unpredictability that comes with his character on every single beat of this film. And Ari Aster does a fantastic job consistently throughout, above all the other things he's doing, of really honing in on that unnerving unpredictability that comes with such a chaotic character on screen for us. It's a film which really revels in taking the uncomfortable and manic nature of something like that and just stretching it out as much as it can do. And I can see how that might feel like, to a lot of people, a bit of a one-note ride, especially for a runtime as long as this thing is, which is, I believe, about 3 hours. So yeah, it's a long one, if that's something that you are and aren't into. But I was impressed, I guess, overall by how well Aster is able to consistently keep the gag running, because by all means it's almost kind of just a 3 hour long joke to punchline this film. I think that's probably where a lot of the claims of self-indulgence are coming from, you know. Trim it down, Ari, you madman. I actually, on the whole, kind of disagree with that labeling of self-indulgence when it comes to films, I guess, in general, and particularly with a film like this. Firstly, I kind of feel like every director, no matter what film they're doing, should be allowed to indulge as much of themselves as it, like, they're making something. Of course they're going to do what they want to do. Like, I don't know, it feels slightly odd to kind of pull that out as a critique. But secondly, specifically in the case of Beau is Afraid, I think it's less of a kind of indulgence of Ari Aster's sensibilities, although, you know, that's going to be a really meaty, difficult one to pull apart and fight about for years to come. But for me, I think it's just kind of thematically more about an indulgence of those kind of darker thoughts, of that kind of worst case scenario thinking. And the film that ends up coming from that is just this kind of constantly snowballing, constantly pivoting ride through, I kind of don't exactly know what. And I enjoy films like that. I want to be able to go back to a film and try and work things out. And this is certainly one of those films where you can absolutely do that. But that's good, and I think it's one of those films which implores you to kind of let go of trying to make sense of things. If you're going through this film and you're the sort of viewer that constantly needs to know why things are happening or what things mean within a film, you're probably gonna get stuck or frustrated at the way that Ari Aster just kind of throws you through it and hopes you stick along. And Ari Aster is very clearly kind of honing in on his personality and his staples as a director. I love the way that he navigates through scenes that always translated before into like a supreme ability to just create horrible, unnerving atmospheres with camera angles and movements which just unsettle you and set you off kilter. And you can kind of see how that lends itself really well to an absurd, dark comedy, because it's using a lot of the same kind of tools from that toolbox, just in a slightly different way to get a slightly different effect. And although it's in a very different kind of way, I do find it similarly as entertaining as watching one of those horror films. I think there's a whole stretch at the beginning of this film when we meet Beau and we see him in his apartment and we see different kind of, I don't know how to put it without, I guess, spoiling things or, you know, sounding like a lunatic, but different things are and aren't happening around him in his flat and in the world around his flat. And I just love the way that Aster kind of, I don't know, throws us through that with his camera. It's really, really energetic and it's really, really unsettling. But as a result of that, it feels like a film which kind of goes in and out of different doors. And that can sometimes feel, you know, varying levels of satisfying in the film. It almost feels like 3 or 4, I suppose, kind of big chapters of a film, and each of those offers different things, and I think I love them all in similar ways, but I think getting between those does sometimes feel like you're doing a little bit of catching up, or you're just kind of being whiplashed a little bit through it all. But I also really like the way it kind of throws you through it. So I don't know, can you tell I'm a little bit, I'm conflicted on some things in this film. There's a lot of comparisons I've seen from people before the film came out, from the trailer I guess, to things like Charlie Kaufman and his filmography, things like Synecdoche, New York, and that was kind of what I was hoping for from a film like this. And let's use Synecdoche, New York as an example there, just as it's top of my mind there. I think that film has a very different way of inviting a viewer to make sense of the puzzle pieces. Aster's film feels much more like it's happy to sit as this kind of roller coaster of the surreal. Wow, that sounded pretentious. I guess what I'm trying to say is just like, it's going into it expecting it to be a big, absurd puzzle box film that will click together neatly and create some kind of hypothesis from Aster as a director. I think you're gonna be disappointed in that sense. It's not a big kind of Kaufman dissertation of a film. It's silly at times, funny at times, sad and dark at times, and twisted. It hits a lot of the buttons that I like to be hit as a viewer in a film, and I think it's definitely going to get better on rewatch. The first immediate watch for a film like this is always just going to be littered with thoughts of, huh? Lord knows there's a load of things in here which have just kind of glossed over my head because I'm looking at various different things in the screen. Oh, also, absolute all-timer use of Mariah Carey's song. I won't say anything else, but just know. Just know. But what about you guys? Have you seen Beau is Afraid? It's out in UK cinemas on Friday. It has been out in the States and everywhere else in the world, I believe, for a short while now. So if you have seen the film, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Love to know where it ranks for you in terms of Ari Aster's 3 films overall at this point. But of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. The button is down there for that, as well as links to my socials. I will see you guys very soon for some more thoughts on more films. But until next time, yeah, we need to take cheese away from Ari Aster. We just don't let him have any more. Keep it all away. Where's Gromit when you need him?